Hi everyone and welcome to Just Love. My name is Paula and I'm here with Judy. Hi Judy.
Hi Paula, hi everyone.
Today Judy is going to give an ET perspective on what's happening politically in America and Europe, and she's going to marry it up with the Roswell crash. Sounds a little bizarre, but what she will reveal is very interesting. So first question, when did this unlikely parallel begin?
Okay, this is all extremely complex, so I need to point out before we begin, there are two levels of sometimes seemingly opposing reality going on. In the greater, higher level of reality, there are no accidents or mistakes. At this level, everything that happens has a reason that is usually not apparent on the lower 3D level that we think of as reality. This is why things often happen down here that don't seem to make sense or else seem extremely negative.
Okay, so these two levels of reality can seemingly be in complete opposition to each other.
Exactly.
Okay.
This happened back in 1945 with the detonation of nuclear weapons that put an end to World War II.
So 1945 when World War II ended.
Yes. And it did put an end to the fighting, but it had a way more far-reaching negative effect than anyone realised at the time.
So now you're speaking from your dual soul consciousness perspective.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I've also had it confirmed by other ETs who've spoken on this. The detonation of the bombs sent shockwaves way off planet, which damaged other areas of the solar system and beyond, and also alerted others out there that intervention was needed on Earth. As has been said before, when the population of a planet go to war with guns and knives, off-planet cultures cannot intervene. Mm-hmm. But when nuclear weapons come into the picture, then intervention is necessary as the effect is way more far-reaching.
So off-planet cultures will always intervene when nuclear weapons are involved?
Yes, in one way or another. They've already proven down here that they can turn these weapons off. This has happened. Just Google Captain Robert Salas to check this out. The other thing was, which most people down here don't realise, Hitler's Nazism was not defeated by the war ending. Hitler was a puppet of the planetary controllers that I call the Repterrans and Anunnaki. It was the Repterrans who were responsible for bringing Japan into the war, and the Anunnakis were the ones behind Hitler's Aryan ideal concept.
Judy, I'll just repeat what you've said because, yes, most people do not realise Hitler's Nazism was not defeated by the war ending. Can you expand on that?
Yes, absolutely. Hitler had a link with the Thule Society, which in turn was linked with the controllers, whose base is the interdimensional regions that people refer to as the inner Earth.
That's all very interesting, Judy. Can you just briefly explain to us the Thule Society and the Aryan ideal?
Okay, the Thule Society was where the idea of Nazism and the so-called Aryan ideal began. Nazism actually began as a political arm of the Thule group, which was founded in 1910 by Felix Niedner, and it was based on the ancient legend of Hyperborea, which was said to be a land in the far north of Scandinavia. The Thule group members were convinced that they were descendants of the Aryan race of this place, Hyperborea, which is really on another dimension that is referred to as the inner Earth. The Vril Society was a similar organisation. It was from these organisations that Hitler learned the techniques of occult concentration, visualisation, and of developing the power to direct his will to influence events and people. I've suspected this for many years and had it confirmed when I read a book entitled The Nazis and the Supernatural, written by Michael Fitzgerald. These societies have a strong link with the so-called inner Earth because of their Repterran link. And this is why Hitler was so keen to find an entrance to this inner Earth. The Aryan ideal is nothing more than the white patriarchal supremacist concept, which is what extreme right-wing politics is all about, as well as fundamentalist religion. The two work hand in hand. This concept did not end with World War II, it simply went underground and is now rising up again with plans to take over the planet.
Oh, So this concept went underground but expresses overtly in the form of extreme right-wing politics and fundamentalist religion.
Yes, the controllers also gave Hitler and the Nazis anti-gravity technology, which enabled them to start building disc-type ships which look like off-planet ships.
But are definitely not off-planet ships.
Definitely not. The so-called Nazi Bell was one of these. Their plan was to use this more advanced technology to overtly take over the whole planet. Alerted by the detonation of the nuclear bombs, the ETs were already monitoring all of this very carefully and knew that intervention was needed. Thus, the whole Roswell incident came into being.
On a higher level, this really does make sense.
Yes, it does. On one level, it was a seeming accident, but on higher levels, it was planned.
And can you explain on that? Expand a little bit on that? Knowing the ETs, there will be 3 reasons involved.
As there always is with them. The first reason was to enable the ETs to get a closer look at the military installations where the bombs were developed. Secondly, to provide tangible evidence in the least threatening way that ETs are real and that some at least are physical beings, not all that different from humans of Earth. And thirdly, to provide technology to even up the playing field for the Allied forces in order to overcome this dangerous political extremism that was still present on Earth, now hidden away, but starting to build this more advanced war technology that was disguised as UFOs or flying saucers as they were known back then.
So keeping in mind that we're talking about the Roswell crash, which happened in 1947.
Yes, technology was back engineered from the crash ship, but because of Earth plane free will, once the crash happened, the ETs could not intervene on whose hands the technology fell into. All they could do was make sure the crash happened in an Allied country.
Mm-hmm. So what do you mean that the technology has been back engineered?
Okay, once scientists in America got hold of the crash ship and its technology, they were able to make use of some of it that they were able to figure out. I know that Colonel Philip Corso was involved with this, and you can read all about this in his book entitled The Day After Roswell. This is a good book, but as Philip Corso has said himself, some of the information in it was interfered with, probably by the military, to make the genuine ETs out to be negative and planning to invade Earth, which, as he said, is entirely wrong. Of course, some of it fell into the wrong hands, hence the military-built so-called UFOs or UAPs, which are built right here on Earth, as Stephen Greer talks about. The right-wing political extremist movement has never gone away. It continued openly in Spain under the fascist dictator Francisco Franco until his death in 1975. Many thousands, if not millions of people were imprisoned, died or managed to escape.
Yes, when you look back in history, you can see it.
Yes, at that time I was deeply involved with the Spanish community here in Australia, so I heard about it firsthand from these escapees. Something that's not generally known is that there were many concentration camps in Spain as there were under Hitler and the Nazis. Franco and the church worked closely together to control the country in a vicious vice-like grip.
I didn't know about concentration camps in Spain. Were they operating after the so-called end of World War II?
Oh my goodness, yes. Franco's side won the civil war in Spain that ended in, I think, 1939, just as World War II was beginning. His fascist politics firmly backed Hitler's Nazis, as did the Italian dictator Mussolini. The Pope at the time also backed Hitler. Spain remained under Franco until his death in 1975. Many Spanish people escaped, often via France, and came to Australia. The Catholic Church was very repressive under Franco, as fundamentalist-type Christianity is closely aligned with extremist right-wing politics. Neither political extremes, right or left, are good. The controllers are firmly behind both as a way of stirring up wars and divisiveness.
Yes, they want division. Division makes it easier for them to control us.
That's for sure. You can see the extreme left faction playing out in countries like Russia, China and North Korea, and now the extreme right is rising up again. As the ETs have explained to me, even though they hate each other, they are very similar in the way they suppress and control people.
Yeah, it's all about suppression and control.
It sure is. I've since found out that this similarity is actually referred to as the horseshoe effect.
What does that mean?
It means that if you go far enough left or right, you meet in the middle as the exact same entity.
That's a great analogy.
It is. And it does make sense given that the planetary controllers are firmly behind both, and they are both all about control and repression.
Yes, so how would you explain what's going on right now on the planet?
There's a situation arising right now in Europe with both Repterran-controlled extremes coming together to impose much more overt control over humanity, as was attempted in World War II. Part of this has again come about through the free will of the people, so will just have to be let played out. Hopefully it will provide an excuse for the ETs to make their presence felt. The way in which this has come about has been a major test for the humans involved. It's super weird because this event was predicted by the Zetas way back in a message that was given to contact experiencer Betty Andreasen Luca. The message turned out to be in an ancient Gaelic language that was able to be translated into English as follows. Children of the northern peoples, you wander in impenetrable darkness. Your mother mourns. A dark occasion forebodes when weakness in high places will revive a high cost of living, an interval of mistakes in high places, an interval fit for distressing events.
Wow, that sounds exactly like what's happening now in the world. And this takes us full circle right back to the very beginning when you said this is all extremely complex. We can break that message down a little bit more in our next episode.
Yes, and present-day events are certainly providing the big spiritual test of choosing love or fear that humanity needs to go through in order to evolve or not. This has to happen as we go through the planetary shift. This is the reason why, through all the elections that have been happening on Earth and are still happening, with one coming up for us here in Australia soon, Upstairs has tried to get the message out to people on the qualities to look for in whoever you choose to vote for. Are they on the side of compassion, kindness and respect for all, or are they into divisiveness, intolerance and racism?
Yes, and this can be seen so clearly if you tune into the deeper energies of those involved. And if you'd like to read more on all of this, Judy's books are available from Amazon and can be accessed through links on her website listed below. And her books are
Human by Day, Zeta by Night, followed by the Zeta Message, then Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History, and my two most recent books, both Kindle editions and both also available in German, An Interview with an Alien, Comments by an Undercover ET, and Cosmic Spirituality, Blending Religion and Science in Oneness from an Off-Planet Perspective.
Thank you, Jude, and thanks everyone for listening. Please share, like and subscribe. Sending you all much love, and bye for now.